my name's Jamie and I'm the founder of Wi-Fi Marketing. I've actually been in the sort of guest Wi-Fi industry for just over 7 years, and I've worked with many councils up and down the United Kingdom, including business improvement districts. So I have quite a good understanding of the typical difficulties that, councils are facing and business improvement districts face, but also the objectives as well. As well as sort of local councils and business improvement districts, I've been very fortunate and lucky enough to work with the likes of the Volkswagen Group and consulting on their guest Wi-Fi systems, right the way down to hotel chains, small cafes and food stalls as well. I've played part in the Wi-Fi design that helped Sunderland City Council win Smart City of the Year last year. And what we do as an organisation, we essentially look at the data that's been captured by the Wi-Fi, and then we'll spin that into our marketing solution, where effectively we'll work with the individuals and we'll look for clear defined goals, and we'll set those goals at an early stage. What we also do is we'll help spot trends in the data, and we'll obviously feed that back to those that need to know. Myself, I'm also part of the Chartered Institute of Marketing, so I'm a member of that, and our company is also Cyprus Central registered, and we are also registered with the Information as Commissioner's Office. Okay, so to start with, what I'd like to do, because quite a few people are relatively new to their job roles, but I just want to give you an idea in terms of the importance of the Wi-Fi. So I'm just going to cast quite a wide net here and just explain what's effectively going on with Wi-Fi around the world. So to start with, obviously, worldwide, globally, we've all been affected by COVID, and what's happened is Wi-Fi has actually played a massive part in trying to keep economies going across the world. So Wi-Fi is being defined as an essential service. There was a massive increase of over 80%, during the pandemic. And without Wi-Fi, the reality is that we'd struggle to work from home. Businesses would struggle to communicate, work remotely. So Wi-Fi really is important. There's also the digital and social inclusion aspect. Now, this is quite important, again, because where Wi-Fi can help is it can help those that are unemployed or simply can't afford broadband. It can also help those in sheltered accommodation. Now, of course, because you guys are obviously in Wales, the broadband connection's not great. It's the same where I live up in Northumberland, where we have very poor internet connectivity. So, is the Wi-Fi fit for purpose? Now, those people that are unemployed, they might have fell on hard times. But by offering Wi-Fi or free Wi-Fi across towns or within businesses, it gives the ability for people to apply for jobs online to help people get back on their feet. Obviously, it also applies to, looking online. So all of us can look online to find the cheapest energy, the cheapest insurance, the cheapest clothing, even right the way down to food. So there's apps such as Too Good To Go, which is an app where sort of local bakeries can use. So instead of binning food on a night time, they can actually put it on the app and sell it at a cheaper rate. Of course, now everything's digitalized, so the NHS app, that's getting bigger and bigger. Learning and education. So this is where Wi-Fi can really help, and it can actually narrow that gap between sort of the digital side and social inclusion. Quite on topic at the moment is the gas prices, which are jumping up quite a bit at the moment. So again, the importance of Wi-Fi is having the ability to access the internet to go on to the best and cheapest energy tariffs. And then there's other things where we don't actually think about. So electric car owners is a prime example, or even paying for parking using an app in the car park. So again, without internet connectivity, so whether that's via a 4G signal or via Wi-Fi, again, we need this connectivity because we are living in that connected world at the moment. So this is a genuine example, a company called Electric Highway, or they're also known as Ecotricity. What they basically do for all of their users who use their charging points around the United Kingdom is there's free Wi-Fi across all of their particular sites. Just going to quickly do that. Okay. So what I'd like to talk about is how Wi-Fi can help others, but how it can also help you. Now, when I say you, I mean that being yourself personally, your business, or your community. So on the next few pages, I'm just going to show you some real life examples of how Wi-Fi has genuinely helped others. Okay, so we're just going to fly from North Wales across the Pennines and into a small town called Craster, which is about 35 minutes away from where I live. So about a year ago, the council decided to scrap the cash payments in the car parking ticket machines, and they went basically to a car parking app whereby people had to download the app to pay for the car parking, or else they would basically get a parking fine. Sadly, there was no 3 or 4G signal around the car park, so people couldn't actually utilize or gain access to any internet connectivity via 4G. Now, this here is one of my customers. It's called the Piper's Pitch. As you can see, it's a very small food stall. But I got chatting to Andy, who's the owner, and he actually said to me, he goes, Jamie, I want Wi-Fi in here because nobody can pay for the car parking because it's all app-based. So this is a genuine sort of review of TripAdvisor, whereby somebody who's been on holiday in Northumberland, they've basically said that the only way they could pay for the car parking was via the Piper's Pitch by using their Wi-Fi. So roll back a year ago, Andy, because he's right next to the car parking machine, his business was being used as a change machine. So people were coming expecting to pay by card, but they couldn't. So Andy was continuously trying to swap, £10 notes for £1 coins. Because Andy's now put Wi-Fi in his sort of area, he's now actually collecting 450 emails per month during the peak summer season. Now, not only does Andy collect that data, which he can use for marketing purposes at a later date, we've also set up a TripAdvisor review. So once somebody, orders or uses the Wi-Fi and hopefully spends, a bit of money at his hut, we'll basically ask them for a TripAdvisor review. So now Andy is actually the #1 restaurant, in inverted commas, on TripAdvisor in the area. Now, what's happened with that as well is Andy has actually become more busier than ever before. So his revenue is actually up. So by turning this problem into a positive, and Andy's actually benefited from this, from this issue, it actually shows the importance of Wi-Fi and how it can help you as an organization or as a business by turning an issue into something positive. So what I'd like to do now is apply this to your town or to your village or to your area in which you look after. So I've took this from the .gov.wales website, and it's basically about the need for charging points for electric cars. And the bit in red circled is quite interesting because what the Welsh Government are basically saying is there may be an associated app-based system. Now, if that's the case, what basically needs to happen is wherever that car park is, it needs to either have very good phone signal coverage or it needs to have good Wi-Fi coverage. So when the car charging points make it to your village or make it to your town, you have an opportunity whereby you can offer the free Wi-Fi next to those car charging points, but actually start collecting that data, collecting names and email addresses, which can then be valuable, for marketing purposes thereafter. And of course, we need to make it as easy and as prominent as possible for people to know that there is Wi-Fi. So you can do that via QR codes or just some simple signage in and around the car park to help people download that app. Okay, so is there any questions on that particular topic? Has anything stood out there?
Can I just ask, you mentioned Andy there, how much time does he spend then, using the email addresses and creating material to send to his new customers?
Yeah, so and to be honest, what we have with Andy, we have an automation feature. So what we effectively do with the guest Wi-Fi is we basically pre-build templates, and then he has an automation feature built in. So once every 6 months, he'll maybe spend, say, half a day out of the business, and he can basically build these templates well in advance. And then what we do is we set triggers on the sort of software element side. So when it reaches a certain date, those emails are automatically sent. Now, what you can do, especially in Andy's sort of business, is Andy also collects the date of births of those individual people. So what we can basically do is we set up an email, which is a happy birthday email. And then what we do is 7 days before, the system every single day will look for somebody's birthday within the next 7 days. If somebody has a birthday in those next 7 days, it just spits that email out automatically. So once we set it up, in theory, over the year, it's just working in the background. So it would just be a case of building that email once, and then from there, it's just fully automated.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. Is there any more questions? Okay. So what I'd like to do now is just fly from Crasta, and we're just going to head slightly west to a town called Alnwick. Now, Alnwick is probably most famous for Alnwick Castle. So if there's any Harry Potter fans in this webinar this morning, you may recognise it. But here is, again, a real life scenario. So a while ago, I was speaking to Alnwick Town Council about installing Wi-Fi across the town. And we had a good conversation with a lot of people, similar to how, today would likely go. And it was a lady just sitting there on our webcam, and she was scribbling a lot of notes down, but she wasn't putting much input in. And then at the very end of the webinar, she basically said that she was a local charity, and she was spending a lot of money basically providing free and 4G phone dongles, so SIMs, and she was basically getting charged £20 per month. And they were being used for people who can't afford broadband, and they were in a sheltered accommodation scheme. So where we had the ability, and what she was thinking was that we had the potential, if the Wi-Fi could get into the buildings, that the Wi-Fi could then be used to support those people, who were getting these dongles, and then that money could then be saved or reinvested back into other charity sort of projects that they have ongoing. So, of course, there's the element of the charity saving the money, which is absolutely fantastic, but it's all about trying to get the most out of those people, that have fell on hard times or can't access the internet. So not only would we be able to provide the broadband free of cost, it would actually help those people that are on hard times, you know, carry on or look at further education, applying for jobs within the local area, get on the best tariffs, the best savings tariffs, the energy tariffs. But also, because the guest Wi-Fi is there for visitors to use, visitors of the town. So when the tourists come to Alnwick Castle, you know, and they want to do the broomstick riding, they can also enjoy free Wi-Fi. Off the back of that, the council, of course, is then gaining valuable data, not only from locals, but also from the visitors coming from around the world. So again, I've looked to try to apply this to sort of the local area where you guys are. So this is an article from the North Wales Chronicle. Now, I don't believe it's specific to North Wales, certainly given the population demographic, but it's just interesting where the likes of Citizens Advice are having to step in and actually pay for these, you know, potentially pay for these broadband connections. So again, as a local council, as a community, as a town or village, what can you do to basically raise awareness to the likes of Citizens Advice and to other charities that my town or village has free Wi-Fi in? You know, do you have a community hub, or does the Wi-Fi off the street, does it bleed into a local cafe that could be used, or a spare retail unit that could be used for those that need it most? And it gives you the ability to then provide a service, but it also gets footfall into the actual town itself. So there is a big part in terms of what Wi-Fi can do, especially free guest Wi-Fi, within towns and villages, and how that can also be applied back into social inclusion. Is there any questions on that side? Okay.
Sorry.
Hi, Erin.
Hi. First of all, my apologies for coming in late. Yeah, the problem we have in our town is that the buildings where businesses and so on are quite old buildings, and they have very thick walls. And the feedback we've been getting is that the signal is not going into the businesses. For example, one lady said, there's only a corner in a cafe by the window where it reaches. Is there anything that we can do to improve that?
Yeah, so you would need to speak to the guys who put the Wi-Fi in, because I don't know the actual network side of things. So that might be one for Ellen to pick up on, Ellen, if that's okay.
Sorry, yeah, no problem. I'll put my email address at the end, Adrian, and we can have a chat afterwards, or
that'd be
next
great.
week. Yeah, okay, thanks.
Thanks, diolch, Ellen.
Diolch.
Okay, is there any more questions in terms of how social inclusion on that side of things? Okay, perfect. So what we'd like to understand, and this would be absolutely great if we can, is we want to help, we basically want you to help us understand what really matters to you as a business, or as a community group. So on the next page, I'm just going to share this. So it's a very quick and short survey. Now, the survey itself, it's totally anonymous, so I don't know, or we don't know who has said what or mentioned what. But if you could kindly fill this out, it'll take no longer than 2 minutes. So if you are a business or you operate within that business space, if you could either scan the QR code on the left-hand side or visit the do.fort/WM1. If you are coming from a community side, if you could scan the QR code on the right, which will redirect you to a website called do.fort/WM2. Now, those surveys will take no longer than 2 minutes, and it would be great if everyone could just jump on them and just start filling them out. So I'll just leave the screen on for a few moments and just let everyone go from there. Okay, everyone, so there we go. I think all of the responses look as though they're in. If anyone's still doing them, it's not a problem. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to hand over back to Ellen, and we are going to play a few short videos just with regards to the Wi-Fi across the town. And I'll also show you a video in terms of one of our customers. So Ellen, I'll hand over to you just to take over and play those videos, if that's okay.
Yeah, no worries. I'll start with the first video, guys. So like we mentioned earlier, myself and Thomas are working on the Smart Towns project. So I'm concentrating on setting up Wi-Fi across Anglesey and North Gwynedd at the moment. And so I just got a short video to show you the work that has been previously done in a small village called Gyfer. So, there we go. Can you see my screen? Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Da ni fel Menter Mon wedi gosod system Wi-Fi cyhoeddus yn Gyfer sy'n galluogi Gyfer rhoi mynediad i'r rhyngrwyd i bobl, ond hefyd mwyn i Gyfer cael mwy o wybodaeth a data a mewn ymwelwyr sydd yma, i fod faint o ymwelwyr sydd yma, a hefyd i weld pa mor hir maen nhw'n aros yma. O'r system Wi-Fi yma, mae'n bosib deud bod dros 10,000 o bobl wedi bod yn Gyfer yn y mis dwytha, a hefyd bod yr ymwelwyr yma ar gyfartaledd yn aros yma am gwmpas 40 munud. Mae'r data yma ar gael i busnesu yn Gyfer, a wedyn y busnesu yma defnyddio'r data mwyn wneud penderfyniadau.
Yeah, so having the town Wi-Fi is beneficial because we have visitors coming in from the trains off Snowdon, and you've probably got a 10-15 mile radius where there's no mobile signal unless you're on E, and then it's scratchy. So the first thing people will do is connect to the Wi-Fi, which gives us a great set of data because then we can mark it out to them going forward when they come back. We have a huge return visitor base coming into Bethgelert. Mae o ddiddorol I ni fel busnesau bod yr system patrwm yn dangos na ryw 20 munud ydy'r amser mae bobl, yr ymwelwyr yn aros yma ar gyfartaledd. Mae hwnnw wedyn yn rhoi ffocws I ni. A targed I ni mae'n cychwyn mwyn I ni gynyddu'r amser mae bobl yn aros yma, neu mwyn I ni ddeall pam na dim ond 20 munud maen nhw'n aros yma. So the data in the patron system allows us to look at what times we're busy in the village. We can see when people are logging on. That helps us manage our staffing so that we can see that we need to staff up more at lunchtime because we're getting a big hit on the data. But also the demographical data from age, gender allows us then to model our business and helps us plan going forward. Y dilyn trafodaethau heddiw gyda busnesau lleol Gyfer, mae'n amlwg bod Menter Mon wedi bod yn llwyddiannus yn gosod y gwybwaith Wi-Fi cyhoeddus. Felly, da ni'n edrych ymlaen I barhau I gydweithio efo Cyngor Mon a Gwynedd I osod y fwy o systemau ar draws Gogledd Cymru.
Yeah, that's it.
So my name's Martin Charlton. This is the old boathouse in Amble, the award-winning restaurant. We've had this place about 7.5 years now. So COVID's been devastating, really, sort of focusing on our industry. I really worry about our industry of hospitality. I guess marketing has changed for us in the 42 years since I've been around catering, but particularly lately. You need a more direct approach with your marketing. You need to target your customers. on an individual basis. So with Wi-Fi marketing and the data collection that it provides, it gives us a unique resource, like an invaluable resource really. You've got this thing that's building thousands of names that you can address as an individual. When the customers come in, they're invited by a member of our staff to use and scan the QR codes. This then allows the customer to benefit through being part of our loyalty scheme. So that's from a customer point of view. From a business point of view and a staff point of view, their feedback's invaluable to us. And this is a first point of contact that comes straight back to us. And if we see something that's sort of a one-off or something that's being repeated and it's an area of possible concern, we can nip it in the bud really. If it was magazine orientated, you're literally looking for people coming in the door without being able to measure that. So really to summarise, the benefits of Wi-Fi marketing for businesses such as ourselves is how instant the feedback is and how simple it is to collect data, which leads you on to so many other sort of possibilities, how you can reward the customer, how you can sort of miss having issues in the future. It's just so simple, so easy. If somebody asks me if they should use Wi-Fi marketing, the answer's got to be a yes. I mean, not only sort of collect invaluable data so easily, but you're actually giving the customer something more than that they're going to get possibly from other venues such as ourselves. If you can carry that sort of sense of value once they've left the building, then that's an incredible thing for the customer to sort of have. It's only going to build up a stronger possibility of loyalty between you and the customer, which will see them returning.
Thanks, Alan. Okay, perfect. So, first of all, thanks to everyone who's filled the survey out before there. So I'll quickly go through some of the things in terms of what has been sort of mentioned and some of the actual stats that's come back on that side. Now, in terms of the videos, so obviously there was 2 great videos there that the guys at Menter Mon have put together. Now, the old boathouse in Amble, so Martin Charlton, he has been in the business for over 40 years. He's had the old boathouse for around about 15 years. And I often go up and see Martin and have a good chat with him and to understand the issues that his business is facing, because fundamentally COVID has been absolutely dreadful. Hospitality sector, retail sector has been hit massively. I mean, all sectors have, but the hospitality industry in particular has found it very hard to get back on their feet. Now, what we've done for Martin is effectively we had the guest Wi-Fi installed a few years ago, and it was collecting data, just simply by people logging on and, whilst they were having lunch or an evening meal. But what we did is we actually used COVID as a bit of a spark. So when we had the NHS app and there was a lot of sort of order at the table being done via different apps, we basically said to people, let's scan this QR code, let's get you online. And from there, you can sit at the table and order your food, pay for it at your table, and then basically, the waiters, waitresses come out, deliver the food. Thereafter, because we have their email addresses, what we can then do is pop those customers who have ticked the box to be marketed to, we can then pop them into a loyalty scheme. Now, a loyalty scheme can differ completely. So a loyalty scheme, in the case of your businesses, you could have a direct loyalty scheme that's specific to you, or as a wider town or wider village, you could have a community-based loyalty scheme. Now, to do that, of course, you need the whole community, the whole village to ideally get involved and create a bit of a buzz in terms of how to do that. But it's all about using data. Now, it's all well and good having a great Wi-Fi system and, you know, it's collecting thousands and thousands of emails. But if you don't use it, it's actually, you know, I question the point of that. It's pointless collecting the data. It's up to you as a community, you as a business owner, to basically drive and use that data. And effectively, if you use it, you are going to have a massive opportunity to drive growth, drive footfall directly into the towns and villages where you guys are. So what I'd like to do now, I'm just going to reshare my screen again. Just quickly flick back through these. Okay, so following on from the surveys, I'll just give you some quick stats. The guys that done the business survey, 96% of you want to grow your business, which is fantastic. Okay, so it shows that you want to grow, you want to make money, you want to possibly employ more people. But in order to grow, you have to have some kind of a plan to do that. So you are going to have to spend money on advertising. Now, when I say spend money on advertising, what I mean is, yes, you could go into the local newspaper, go and spend 150 or 200 pounds, you know, per newspaper and advertise, you know, get half a page. That's great. But if you do that, and as soon as that person buys that paper or gets delivered to the house, as soon as somebody licks their finger and turns the page, your money's gone. And that's that £250 or however much it cost, it's disappeared. Because your town or shopping centre or whatever it may be, because it has Wi-Fi and you are part of the community, you have the potential to access or to advertise on the guest Wi-Fi itself. So whilst people are actually in the town or in the village, you have a captive audience and you have that one-time opportunity where you have the potential to engage with those people, with your target market, whilst they are in their town. Now, from a community point of view, what's very interesting is 72% of people who took part in the community survey would spend more money if there was some kind of loyalty scheme or if a retailer could do some kind of a discount. So with that in mind, what I'd like to do is just throw this whole conversation open, and I just want to understand, you know, what you as individuals, what your aims are, what your goals are, and hopefully we can just have a very good sort of conversation. So if anyone wants to open it up and start off, and we can make this as big and as wide as we can. Okay, would anybody like to think of anything or make any comments about how you could try to grow your business, or you know, how a loyalty scheme could potentially look? What's everyone's feelings in terms of a loyalty scheme as an example for businesses and for the local community?
Hello, I'm not sure if you can you hear me?
I can hear. Is that Kate?
Kate, yes.
Yeah, hi Kate.
So I work for Torvine Council. Hello. You have to excuse me, first time using Zoom, which when we're talking about technology is quite embarrassing, but hey. So with regards to loyalty schemes, I manage Pontypool Indoor Market amongst a lot of other things in my role. But I know myself as being a customer as well, our mindset is in shopping in the supermarkets. The value you get by repeating your custom there for the loyalty and what you get back on that, particularly places like Tesco, where you do get quite a discount on a lot of goods because you are that loyal customer. I try and use as many independent businesses as I can. And then if they were to able to do put a loyalty, it would drive me to go back to them. I'm trying to look at Wi-Fi, public Wi-Fi in the indoor market, and one of the things I want to develop as part of that is use that as a platform for my businesses in the market to put across their discount. So I think it is really valuable utilising the Wi-Fi in order to achieve that, and then just drive the footfall for me to the market, and just hanging that carrot, that incentive to the customer.
Yeah, totally agree, Kate. I mean, to be honest, we've worked with a few different sort of shopping centres, and actually last week we brought on a similar sort of business as you described there, and they are an indoor market, so they have a lot of small independent sort of butchers, sort of therapy type of people, a small little children's sort of gift shop, small cafes, etc. And there is an issue, and yet you are absolutely right, where we are becoming a bit more commercialized now. So unfortunately, with the rise of the internet, people are shopping online, but actually what we have seen since COVID and since reopening is, in our trends, we've actually seen people going to more independent retailers, and I get the feeling that people feel slightly more safe going to somewhere where it's more independent. I don't know why that is. From a personal point of view, I do actually feel safer in an independent because I think they have a high level of standard because it's their own business. I would like to think that it's being cleaned regularly, which I'm sure most independent businesses are. But again, you are absolutely right about the discount side. So with discounts, and especially with email marketing, what the likes of Tesco, even the likes of Iceland, Iceland are very, very good at basically looking at an average spend. So as an example, if you have a business and your average spend in that business is, say, £15, what you can do to help grow your business is actually incentivize the customer to spend more, but give a discount. So instead of basically cutting your margins on your average spend, what you need to do with the email marketing side is basically email the customers out, and it'll basically say, hi, Jamie, here's a 10% off voucher for when you spend £20 or more. So what you're doing there is you are actually increasing your average spend from £15 to £20, but you're giving away £2. So you've actually increased the average spend by £3 in total. Now that, based on a £15 average spend, is a 20% increase. So all of a sudden you are increasing your revenue of your business by 20%, but also incentivizing more sales. Now, part of that is where you can then implement that loyalty platform. So again, once you start getting that average spend up, rather than giving the 10% away, you could then start doing a loyalty scheme whereby you get 10 stamps and you get something totally free of cost. Now, that free of cost item, could be, say, for example, in a cafe, it might be you get a free muffin. Now, the likelihood is if you buy a muffin, your mouth may be quite dry, or you may need a cup of tea, a cup of coffee to go with that. Now, what we see is a lot of people say free cup of tea, free cup of coffee, but then, you're hoping that somebody's going to buy a cake or buy something else. What we like to say is actually, buy, give a bit of the cake away or give a muffin away. And the likelihood is they'll then go and buy the tea or the coffee to then obviously wash it down with. So I totally agree, Kate, that, the way to go is to try to have some kind of loyalty scheme. And when you are part of that loyalty scheme, you feel part of something. You feel, you feel part of that organization and that journey that the business is going on. So especially with the independence. So yeah, great comments on that one, Kate. Is there anybody else who would like to put some thoughts in or ideas in terms of, how we can potentially use loyalty?
I think it's a valid point, especially the lockdown in our town. Using independent shops, you get to build a relationship with them. So, and then when you walk through town, they might come to the door and say, oh, I've got this in coming in next week. Do you want me to keep some for you? Type of relationship. And I think that's especially important for the elderly in our town. Again, making them feel safe and getting them out and about in the community now that lockdown's lifted. But yes, I think shopping independently is very important. For example, myself, I encourage my family to buy my children book tokens from our local bookstore, and they absolutely love going in there and seeing Auntie Ellen behind the counter and buying their books from the local store rather than on a screen through Amazon. So I think, that's a loyalty scheme. I think a town loyalty scheme would increase independent businesses revenue. So yeah, I agree with that.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, absolutely. It's everyone is facing a battle, against the internet fundamentally. I have a 4-year-old daughter who's a bit of a whiz kid on the internet, on her tablet, and I fear for retail, but at the same time, because I'm in this industry, I can actually see the data trends in terms of what's happening. So I'm actually very positive with the high street, even though there's a lot of negativity around in the press at the moment about shops closing and stuff like that. But from an independence point of view, if we can use that data that's being harnessed by the Wi-Fi, and then somehow try to get those repeat customers coming in, and it just allows businesses and allows the community to actually make informed decisions. So depending upon the data that is collected by the Wi-Fi, and I know there's other systems attached sort of to the Wi-Fi as well, we can actually understand the busy times of day, the quiet times. There's even some sort of solutions out there where we can break down, age. So as an example, if on a Monday morning, there's a lot of females coming into a town, and they're between a certain age range, is it because they are having like a mothering meeting or going into a cafe and having a chat, from like a mothering group point of view? Again, could it be that the slightly older generation, the over 65s as an example, the grandparents coming out into the towns or into the villages? And, what could you do as a retail, as a shop, as a clothing shop, as an example? So could you actually, instead of having, adult clothing in the shop window at the front, if you know that the over 65s are pushing the prams or the pushchairs along on a Monday morning, can you flip your shop window to have the children's clothing in the shop window? And then obviously the grandparents will want to spoil their kids and buy them new clothing. So there's a lot of different ways in which Wi-Fi and data can be used, and it can be there not just to be used for marketing purposes. It can be used to make informed decisions, about what is happening within your town. So is there anybody else would like to comment on this bit? Okay, so I'll just move on. So one of the key issues and one of the key, I guess, restraints to collecting data is people simply aren't aware that there is free Wi-Fi. And what we need to do is actually inform those visitors and just basically make great awareness of the fact that there is Wi-Fi. So as mentioned previously, you have got opportunities, and there will be opportunities coming up certainly over the next 5 to 8 years with the likes of car charging points. Myself, I do have an electric car, and it is a bit of a pain because there's a load of different apps that you have to download and scan and to do all this technological stuff. But you do have to have internet connectivity in most cases. There is some units where you just tap your debit or credit card against the charger, and that's fine. But there is a potential opportunity whereby if you can raise awareness via banners in car parks or QR codes on car parking machines or whatever it may be, just to actually inform people about Wi-Fi and it being there. Now, just going back to the survey that was carried out before, from a business point of view, so the guys that carried out the business survey, 25% of you would only tell people or talk about the free Wi-Fi within your town. So if there was a way in which during conversation, when you're at the, when somebody's purchasing something and you make that small talk, you get to understand or know the customer very well and they get to know you, you can drop into conversation, you just say, oh, have you been onto the free Wi-Fi? Because we are launching this new loyalty scheme, which would, give you access to, potentially 10% off different retailers around the town and around the village. So it's all about communicating and trying to raise awareness. So again, just for ideas in terms of how we can try to promote the Wi-Fi, does anybody have any ideas in terms of how we could do that?
Hi, JB. Yeah, myself and my colleague, we before the pandemic actually had a meeting with our local Chamber of Commerce, and hopefully now with lockdown restrictions easing, we're hopefully going to follow up on that. But having a meeting with our local Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, this is it. You have a fantastic base with the Chamber of Commerce. Obviously, we've got ours here up in the Northeast Chamber of Commerce, and the amount of connections, I guess, within those different, whoever's within the chamber itself. So, you may have different solicitors, marketing companies, videography companies, IT companies, charities, and the more people that's aware of the actual Wi-Fi itself, the better. I mean, another good one, of course, is via the likes of Facebook and sort of Facebook community groups. So if your town or village has a community group, I believe Beth Gellert did around 2 years ago, when the other Wi-Fi system was in, and there was different offers that was being posted on the Beth Gellert page. So again, we have obviously QR codes within the shop windows, which are great because everyone is now used to a shop window, having a lot of QR codes in anyways for track and trace and stuff. But from a technological point of view, everyone's also used to scanning a QR code. So the only thing that we'd recommend is just making sure that the QR code is at a reasonable height. So you don't want it, right down on the windowsill of the shop front or right at the bottom corner. You want it at a height which is accessible for sort of wheelchair users, just for EDI compliance. And also you wanted it a height which is, reasonable, for the average sort of adult in terms of height. So around sort of chest height tends to be a good sort of height on that size. You could go down the other traditional routes, of course. So to promote the Wi-Fi, you could put articles in the local newspaper. Normally they don't cost any money. And the beauty with when they go into the local news, they tend to then distribute them onto their Facebook pages as well. So you'll then have a good reach on social media as well. So there's a lot of different ways in which you can promote the Wi-Fi. Now, as I say, once you have informed the people and promoted the fact of the Wi-Fi, what we then do is we then capture that data. So without using that data, okay, people aren't naturally going to come to you. You have to go out and look for them. And by using the data, by using email addresses, it doesn't have to be an email once per day or once per week even. You could do a monthly newsletter to your community. But actually, it's not just about sending an email and sending 10,000 emails out once a month. It's how do we get creative with those emails? And what we need to do is effectively make sure that those emails hit the right audience. So what I mean by that is, say for example, I'm from the Northeast. If I come to Wales on holiday, have a great time, go camping, do whatever I'm doing, then I come back home. Now, I do not want to know about the local tea room because it's irrelevant to me at that moment in time. What I may want to know, or what I may want to receive, is a monthly newsletter or once every quarter, and that gives me enough information just to keep your local community or local town in the back of my mind, because I won't be traveling, 300 miles to the local fish and chip shop. So that content, if it was going to be a weekly email, it's irrelevant to me. So what we need to do is we need to segment the actual database of what's being captured in terms of off the Wi-Fi. So in an ideal world, what you need is a database, which is one for the locals. So say within a 5 or 10 mile radius, and then one for your tourists or your visitors. Now, what that gives you is you'll have your locals on this particular database. That will then give you a better open rate on the email. It will give you a better click-through rate because the content is more relevant to that individual. With the tourism one, which is me, or I don't want to know about what's happening in a local town every single week, because the likelihood is I would unsubscribe after 2 or 3 emails. What I'd like to know is, what might be happening, what new hotels are opening within the area, what new tourist attraction is opening in the area. So to have a segmented database, it just gives you a better route to communicate to your customers, and you will get a higher opt-in rate alongside a higher click-through rate. Now, basically an open rate, just for those that don't know what that is, effectively when you open an email, that is what we call open rate. So it's a percentage of how many people has opened that email. So effectively, if we send out 100 emails and 20 people open it, that means we have a 20% open rate. Now, open rate is great for the likes of news, so effectively what's happening within my shopping centre, what's happening within my town. But if you want to have a call to action, so i.e. you want to take people and redirect them through to a website, as an example, then that's what we call a click-through rate. So basically, click through is where we are trying to redirect somebody to a website. And then open rate is where somebody has basically opened that particular email. Now, I'm just going to throw this open. So I know we have a lot of people who are, very good with technology, and we've got some people who don't quite understand emails and stuff like that. So we can go through this just on the next few slides. But would anybody like to comment in terms of how you think in your world, how you think you could use the data in terms of the data capture within the Wi-Fi?
Yeah, I think here in our town, it would probably be opening hours for businesses. And also as far as tourist season, when people come off a little, Ffestiniog Railway, if they come off that train, and then we can target them by saying, well, if you would like to come for coffee and a tea cake or a scone, there's a cafe around the corner. That type of targeting, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly the way to go. It's about making people aware of what is around and what can be linked. So as you said, if they come off the Ffestiniog Railway, are they aware of the cafe that's down the road? So it's about businesses trying to work together on that side of things. But actually, you also have the ability with the Wi-Fi as well, and with the data that's being captured, to potentially work with some of the larger, I guess, tourist attractions. So I know the guys at Zip World, obviously they're quite big, or certainly within that sort of touristy type of attraction side of things. So again, it's, could you work with those particular people? Because as a tourist, again, me coming into North Wales as an example, I'd likely want to visit those tourist attractions anyways. But of course, I'd like to experience and, walk around the likes of Bethgelert, which is a lovely village, which I've been to before. But for me, it's about trying to, as you say, raise awareness in terms of, when is stuff open? But also, what else can I do whilst I'm within the town or the village itself? And again, as I said before, in terms of data, so the Wi-Fi is capturing, thousands of email addresses across every town and every village and every shopping centre that that has the Wi-Fi installed. But it's how can you make those informed choices? So as a business owner, can I flip my shop window on a Monday morning for when the grandparents come through the town with the local children? Bringing that back into the cafe side of things, if I think there's a mothering group coming through, can I get a dedicated menu dedicated to mothers or fathers or parents, which is, a cup of tea, a scone, whatever it might be, and actually build something and make them feel valued, make them feel part of something special. And by using that data and looking into it, it's an absolutely great tool to do. And I know because of COVID, everyone's budgets are tight. Let's not beat about the bush in that one. Everyone has lost revenue, or the majority of people have. But actually, Wi-Fi, you do have a system that's collecting data, and it's effectively there to use. And it's people who's actually been in the town before, and the likelihood is they've had a good experience. They'll want to come back, no doubt. But please just use that data that you have. Okay, is there anybody else who would like to add anything on that side? Okay, so this is just my last slide, and I just want to show you something. So this particular screenshot, this is our system, the Wi-Fi marketing system. Now, I'm not here to sell anything. I just want to show you what potential Wi-Fi and email CRM systems can do for your business. Now, what we have on the left-hand side is what we call a subject line. So basically, that subject line is the header of the email that would be sent. Now, what you can do with subject lines is you can do what we call A/B testing. So what systems can basically do is, let's say you have a database of 1,000 people. What A/B testing basically does is it sends around about 100 emails. 50 would have subject line A, and the other 50 would have subject line B. Now, what the software then does is it delivers those 100 emails out, and it then works out which of these subject headers has had the best open rate. So in this case, A would say Jamie, or it would say Kate, or it would say Thomas or Ellen. Here's your 10% voucher. B would say 10% off your next purchase. Now, because you are capturing or potentially capturing people's names on the guest Wi-Fi, all of a sudden, what we can do is we can do what we call mail merge. And all that basically means is the name that somebody has used on the Wi-Fi would basically end up within that subject line. What that does is it makes the email slightly more personal. So you're not just saying hi or hello. You're actually making it a bit more personal to your individual customer or to your visitor. This bit here is pretty standard. This is just who it's from. But I'll just show you the bottom. So what we can do is on emails across many different systems is we can add what we call third-party tracking. So what that is essentially is as you visit any website, you are being tracked on that website. So you'll probably get like pop-ups and stuff like that, like saying, please allow cookies and stuff. But what we can do on an email is effectively the same thing. And we can basically embed tracking code. And what that means is, say, for example, Google Analytics. So if we are trying to redirect somebody back to a website, we can actually see that this particular person has opened this email, they've clicked on the link for the website, and they've visited the website. We can also add things in such as Facebook Pixel. And basically, a Facebook Pixel is just a way in which you can retarget people on Facebook with a similar demographic to those that have already used the Wi-Fi. So that's sort of slightly advanced, but it is something that's quite big in the industry at the moment. But again, Wi-Fi systems and email solutions can actually do that. So on the right is basically just a fake venue called Beansprout Bistro. And here's our sort of offer. So we're going to offer a free cup of coffee. Then what we've done is we've used mail merge. So it's hi, in my case, Jamie. And then just a little bit of text. And then what we can do here is then offer that customer a free voucher. So the customer can basically come in with the voucher, they can print that voucher off, and then when they come to the till or to pay for their cup of coffee, they can then hand that voucher over. Now, if your till or your EPOS system has the ability to scan barcodes, we can also allow people to basically show the mobile phone and we can scan that barcode. Now, when somebody scans the barcode, that's very powerful because it means that you can actually track what or how well an email campaign has worked for your business. In the voucher side of things, again, you could manually, count them up. If you don't have a all singing, all dancing, sophisticated EPOS system, you can count them up on a night time, and it just allows you to keep track of what's working. So does anyone have any questions on the sort of email side of things in terms of, has anybody ever used any other email systems, or, just please give me sort of feedback on emails if anyone's used them.
We use the MailChimp system. It's managed by a third party, so we're not involved. But I was just wondering, can MailChimp do the kind of things that you've sort of suggested there with regards to choosing between A and B on subject lines and stuff like that?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So MailChimp can definitely do that, Alan. The way in which MailChimp works from a pricing point of view, I won't obviously discuss pricing, but they have certain features which need to be paid for before you can start doing certain aspects. So to be honest, MailChimp keeps kind of changing their packages quite frequently. But I know 100% that MailChimp can definitely do A/B testing on the subject lines. I'd highly recommend using A/B testing because it's quite interesting to see what actually sticks with your customers or visitors to the town. So one of my sort of clients who use our system is the Bradley Lowry Foundation. So I don't know if you can remember, a few years ago, it was a lad, a young lad. He had I'm trying to think of the cancer now, but he had some terrible cancer, and he passed away. But he got a lot of funding, and the likes of Sunderland Football Club done a lot for him and his family. But we actually, they're a client of ours, and they use our system to send emails out on a monthly basis. Now, what is interesting is they use A/B testing. Now, when Bradley Lowry's name is mentioned, it gets a significant higher number of opens as the subject line that doesn't mention his name. So I would strongly recommend, if you do use MailChimp, if you have to pay for that feature, it might be, £10 or £15 per month more than what you're paying at the moment. But I would certainly dive into it and give it a couple of months and try it out, because it is worth spending the money, and you will see the difference in terms of open rates moving forward.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else who would like to jump in and mention or talk about emails? Okay, perfect. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to pause my sharing. Let's just have a quick look. And I will just show you some of the data in terms of the Wi-Fi, in terms of the surveys that we did before. So I'm just going to reshare my screen. Okay, so as I say, this is totally anonymous data. So this is the question that we asked the businesses just earlier on before. So one of the questions, being in business, it's all about making money, of course. We have to make a living to pay the bills, pay the rent, pay the mortgage, pay the cars, etc. So the first question we asked was, using a sliding scale of 0 to 10, choose the level of importance or what resonates the most to you. So 76% of people or businesses want to make as much money as possible. 96% of the people who answered the business want to grow as much as possible. So 96%, which is absolutely fantastic. Okay, 33% of those businesses or people answered would be happy to give a moderate 10% discount. 26% would like to, I'm just going to quickly come on this one to be a little bit easier. 26% would be happy to spend more money on advertising or marketing. I asked the question in terms of if my business is more of a hobby, and on average, 28% has come back as an average. 25% are asking existing customers or visitors if they've logged on to the free Wi-Fi. And there's also around 30% of people on average who have little understanding or have a worry about technology such as Facebook, social media, and also e-commerce. So I just wanted to give you those stats because, as I said earlier, what matters to you might not matter to others. So that's from a business point of view. So it's great to see, you know, we have good confidence there that we want to grow the business and we want to make as much money as possible. But at the same time, in order to do that, what we need to do is naturally spend more money on advertising or marketing. Now, in your case, because all of the towns, you have that Wi-Fi there, it's there sitting there collecting data. The only thing that you may have to dive into is, you know, sending a few emails out. So it's probably just your actual physical time to do that. So I'm just going to go back into the community. So this survey was a little bit bigger. So question 1 was, are you aware of how technology, including Wi-Fi, social media, and e-commerce, can help support and create and grow jobs in your town? So we had a good response, which is 65%, which is really good. So what we need to do is actually also understand the technology. So the understanding of technology such as guest Wi-Fi, social media, and e-commerce, it's hovering just at 40% there. So we do have a range of 19 to 77%, which means we do have people that's, you know, quite well aware of what guest Wi-Fi can do. But then there is also people who are maybe new to the market, new in a job role, and, you know, we just don't quite understand what it can do for our business yet. So hopefully today, this particular session has just raised a slight bit of awareness in terms of, you know, what can be done, certainly from a guest Wi-Fi point of view. Obviously, I haven't touched e-commerce because that's not my field, you know, but you can kind of see that. So this next one is very interesting. So in the business, I asked if businesses are willing to do a little bit of discount, and the answer was about 33%. Now, the good news is 83% of you guys are trying to shop at independent retailers. So you are supporting local business, which is fantastic. Now, the next question I asked was, would you spend more money with independent retailers if I got offered a discount or loyalty? So nearly 73%, so 3 out of 4 people on average are basically saying to businesses, we would spend more money if you could offer us a discount or be part of a loyalty platform. So everything that we've discussed before there is showing that as a community, that having a loyalty scheme or being offered some kind of discount is great. From a business point of view, you know, we want to grow our business, but we understand that our funds are possibly limited in terms of marketing. And also we understand that, you know, possibly our product or our margins are slightly too low because everyone's getting squeezed and, you know, energy prices are going up, you know, and everything's getting tighter and tighter. So to me there's a clear indication and there's a clear bit of synergy that a business has an objective of wanting to grow. and a goal of wanting to grow, but we also have the local community who would like to be part of a loyalty scheme. And if we can marry those two up together by using the guest Wi-Fi, then we have a very strong case that both the community can be happy and also that the business is also happy. Okay, and last on this particular one was a question of, if you were looking for a local business, e.g. a tea room, where would you look? So obviously online, so you have to have an online presence. Now, in order to get online, how do you do that? So, you know, you'll do that at home, or where do you do that? You might do it in the car park because you don't know where something is, or you might be walking around the town thinking, oh, where is, you know, this shop? I can't find this particular shop. So online, obviously Yellow Pages, it's gone, it's dead. I just put that in because, you know, it's just old technology, it's an old way. TripAdvisor, so again, TripAdvisor is very much there to be used to see what or how well a restaurant is doing or how well a cafe is doing, you know, and to actually get customer feedback. So again, with the Wi-Fi, if we take the old boathouse in Amble as the example, we are automatically, when a customer comes in, finishes their food, we are automatically sending out a TripAdvisor email, basically saying, hi, please leave us a review on TripAdvisor. That then builds up those TripAdvisor reports, and then all of a sudden the cafe, the restaurants get more TripAdvisor reviews, which then pushes them higher up on TripAdvisor. And in turn, when people are looking for a restaurant to go to, 30% of people are looking at TripAdvisor. Next is family or friend recommendations. There is still a slight need for, you know, I call it junk mail. So, you know, leaflets coming through the door. And then there's also this information here. So, you know, in the local supermarket, would you look at a notice board, you know, like around the checkout area? So there's quite a bit of data there. And I think the key one is what we've probably discussed is there seems to be some kind of strong requirement there, or a need, something to do with loyalty, which is quite interesting on that side. So does anybody have any sort of, I guess, feedback on the survey? Were you surprised in terms of, you know, what it could deliver?
From my point of view as a customer, you know, it was a bit of an eye-opener that businesses want, you know, 96% of them want to grow, but then only a third of them would consider offering a discount.
Yeah, no, totally. So I think with sort of discounts, it's a bit of a weird place at this moment in time, because, you know, they, especially in business, they may have took, I don't know, say a bounce back loan off the government, you know, to kind of get them through the pandemic. So there's probably overheads that us as consumers, as potential customers, that we don't actually realize what's happening. Also, a lot of businesses, because they are a business in essence, they have had to continue to pay for their broadband, because they aren't covered by the consumer sort of credit agreements of 1974. So we, as a business, we don't actually have the, I guess, the flexibility in terms of what a customer has in terms of cancelling stuff down. Of course, overheads is going up in my industry, so within sort of marketing, within IT, we are seeing a massive increase, especially with the legs of wireless access points. We've seen a massive 20 to 22% increase recently in terms of Wi-Fi. So naturally, we certainly couldn't absorb that price increase. So we do have to pass some on. We would try to absorb what we can. But I think there's constraints from things that we don't think about on a daily basis. You've also got other things like the pensions. So pensions are continuously going up for small businesses now. I think it started at 1%, it's 2%, 3% and going up. So again, it's trying to see it from both sort of sides. So that's why I deliberately put the business point of view in and get the businesses to do one survey and for the community or the shoppers, in other words, to do another one. But what is key, I think, Alan, is having the ability to, from a business point of view, if they can't discount down, what can we do to increase our revenue or increase our turnover and then potentially discount down? So that's why if the business can work out their average spend, and if they can try to increase their average spend or do an email promotion that increases average spend by 25%, so that £15 average spend to £20 and then give 10% away, then actually the likelihood is the business will probably, still be making a bit more profit at the end of that. So yeah, it is very interesting, but I think there is definitely something there for loyalty, and that is one way that, especially with 82% of the community willing to shop locally, I think that is a good, strong sort of offering that could be made by businesses with a loyalty scheme.
Yeah, there's some points there that you mentioned that I wouldn't have sort of thought of really, but it's. I wouldn't expect them to do anything at a loss, but it's like a loyalty scheme. If you go into somewhere and you spend £20 and then you get a discount when you return next time within 6 weeks or something, then that would encourage me to use that more often then.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's that is key. Local retailers have having it quite hard. I mean, everyone's having it hard, of course, but again, it's that loyalty. But as you say, you have to have you have to have a trigger point. So if it is a loyalty stamp or a discount code, it has to be used within a certain time period, because the last thing you want is to have a barcode or a 10% off code lingering, for 12 months or 18 months, and margins getting tighter and tighter again. So you're absolutely right. It's very important to basically put that barcode or discount code and actually set a specific time frame for that. Okay, has anybody else got any more thoughts or any more questions? Okay, so what I'm going to do now, just for the last sort of 10 sort of minutes, I'm just going to very quickly just give you an idea in terms of what an email system can do. So again, as I say, this is just purely just to give you a flavour in terms of what you can potentially do with an email system once everything is essentially connected up in the real world. So let me just pull up this particular slideshow. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so just to give you an idea in terms of what you can do with an email system. So you might have milestones. So what we mean by milestones is people's birthdays. We are talking about people's wedding anniversaries. It could be about, somebody has visited a hotel 12 months ago or a year ago. And can we send out an automated trigger or an automated email to say, hi, Jamie, you were here 12 months ago. We'd love to see you come back. You've then got the Wi-Fi. So we can basically, or different systems can essentially pull data in from Wi-Fi. We can look at new data, existing visitor data. You can look at the time spent within the town or within the village. With email systems, you can also integrate in other software. So the likes of Eventbrite is a good one. So obviously today, I think everyone's registered via Eventbrite. So again, you can push any customer information from Eventbrite directly into the likes of MailChimp as an example. You can get data from loads of other third parties. You can push the data from your website or from forms that might be on different websites as well. They can all go directly into an email CRM system. You've got the likes of Just Eat, Uber Eats, Deliveroo, people like that. You know, if you are at a restaurant or a pizza shop or, whatever you may be, you have also got the ability to push data from the likes of those apps directly into the likes of MailChimps and so on. You've got loyalty and your till systems. So again, you can, if you have a fantastic all singing, all dancing till system, you can basically push in and you can find out if Jamie has ate a hamburger and Jamie has spent £100 on food, or Jamie is a vegan. We can basically push all of that data from your till system again into an email solution, an email CRM. Reservations as well, we can do all of that. And of course, loyalty. So if somebody has been in the venue for 5 times, we can actually get the email CRM system to tag that against the user. So what I'm going to quickly do, rather than going through the PowerPoint, because we are limited on time, I'm just going to show you this particular system here to give you an idea. So we mentioned before, I think there was a comment about how long does somebody spend making an email. Now, making an email can literally take anywhere from sort of 5 minutes to, around 30 minutes in reality. Now, what we want to do is make all of our lives easier, because quite simply, we don't have the time to be sending out emails every single day. Now, what we can do is say, for example, if on the Wi-Fi, if we can capture people's birthdays, what we can essentially do is we can create what we call an automation. So that automation would basically start by the software. So whether it's MailChimp or Constant Contact or whoever you use for your email software, what it would basically do is it would, every single day of every single month at 10 o'clock in the morning, it would basically look for somebody on the database that has their birthday or their date of birth in the next 7 days. Then if they have, then what we can do is we can send out that birthday email that you've just created. So it's just one email that you need to create. And we basically allow the system to then simply send that email out automatically. Then what we can do is we can add what we call actions. So as an example, we could add a delay, and we could add that delay for, say, 7 days. And then what we could do is send a further email. So it'll be happy birthday, Jamie. And then you would basically fill all of this email out and you'd build the email. And then once you're happy with that email, that then just basically runs in the background. So that's how easy and quick you could basically do a birthday email. So let's say that birthday email, for those two, let's say it takes you an hour to build that up. But once the automation is set up, this will just run in the background. So if you have 10,000 people on your database, the system will automatically, every day of every month at 10 o'clock, will search for whose birthday it is within the next 7 days. It will then automatically send that email out saying it's your birthday in 7 days. Why not visit Jamie's cafe? And if you bring 4 people, you dine for free. What we can then do is that email goes out. In a further 7 days, we will then send the next email, which would be a happy birthday Jamie email. And then that email could then be in support all of the other businesses. So as a business, you could then say, here's 10% off all shops across the town of Bethgelert. That way, you are basically then encouraging people to dine locally. So the local restaurant could basically sponsor this particular section. And then, of course, on the person's birthday, you could have a few different stores or the whole town or the whole village that could actually go out and sponsor that particular person and offer them a discount. So there's a lot of things that we can do on that side. Now, in terms of segmenting the network, so I'm just going to very quickly search. So we talked about segmenting. Now, what we can do with data is we can segment it so it's better for open rates. Now, as I mentioned before, if I was visiting Wales on holiday, I don't want to be targeted every single week about the local butchers or the local florist because it's irrelevant. But what we can do is we can basically create what we call tags. So we can create a tag, and then if a tag has a certain name, so it equals whatever tag you want it to call it. So let's just say locals. Or if we want, we could add another search field. So if somebody has visited the town, but they haven't been back in a certain time, if we wanted to target all of the genders, so let's just say it would have to be male or female, we can target all of those on an individual basis. So again, if we take Valentine's Day as an example, if you have the florist or a I don't know, a chocolatier in the town, or a hotel, my email message might want to be different or worded differently to a male than what the female might want. So again, you can segment your database to make it relevant to your particular demographic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that demonstration there. I just wanted to give you an idea of what an email bit of software can do, because I appreciate that everyone is not using the same particular bit of software. Some might be using MailChimp, some might be using Constant Contact, some might not even be using anything at all. But I just want to say thanks for your time, everyone. I'd highly encourage you to certainly use the data that's being captured within the guest Wi-Fi platforms. Please have a look at that. It's free data. It's people who's been in the town, and I hope today has been good in the sense of trying to allow you to understand the importance of Wi-Fi's and how it can be used, but also just to give you ideas in terms of how the email software can be used, the segmentation part. And hopefully the survey element as well was good and a little bit of an eye-opener to see what is relevant to a business, what is relevant to the community. So I'll just open it up for the last 2 moments. If anyone has any questions or wants to pop a message in the chat, you're more than welcome to. And I think I'll just hand it back to Ellen as well. But yeah, any questions, please fire away. Okay, and I don't think there's anything in the chat that we've missed either. So, okay, yeah, so thank you very much for inviting me, and it's been great to speak to everyone this morning and, of course, learn a little bit about who you are and where, and the projects that you're hopefully getting involved in. So I'll just hand it over to Ellen just to wrap up. But yeah, thanks very much from me.